IVM.
Hi, I'm Zarina Poonawalla, your peak performance coach, life coach, emotional intelligence practitioner, and NLP practitioner. I'm also the founder of Abso Expertise Unique, and my organization constantly aims at building leaders across continents. After having worked with so many dynamic business honchos, entrepreneurs, startups, CEOs, management gurus, parents, and student communities worldwide, I am convinced that every individual has unleashed potential, and all we really need to do is realize it. Watch the magic unfold, enhance quality of life, relationships, and professions. On my show, be ready for some riveting conversations with inspirational people, snippets, stories, and much more. So here I am on this exceptional journey to find empowerment and inspiration anywhere I can. Come join me on this breathtaking path of self-realization, potential maximization, positivity, and most of all, embrace your inner power. You are on your way to empowering yourselves. Welcome to the Empowering Series with Zarina Poonawalla. On today's episode, I'm in conversation with a curator of words, a creator of stories, and a fascinating writer with such incredible work in her basket. And one such is the recently released Masaba Masaba on Netflix. Please welcome story and screenplay writer and creative director at Sony LIV, Anupama Ramachandran. Hi, Anupama.
Hi, Zarina. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction.
I hope it was nice because you're the writer, you can judge me with my writing skills here.
No, there's a writer in everybody, and that was very beautifully penned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, but I totally think you deserve it, and you've done such a wonderful amount of work in the industry. There's so much that you come with, so obviously you deserve a good introduction. So tell me, how have the past couple of months been for you, the lockdown and all of that?
It's been an interesting time. I think writers per se are quite solitary people, and we enjoy that peace of mind. But beyond a point, we're also observers of people, and we take in from the world, and that's how we're able to recreate and produce, real emotions and real relationships and people and characters. So it's been interesting. I enjoyed it in the first couple of months, but then this, it's gone on for so long that it feels very isolating now.
True. Because the thing is, everybody started off with, hey, let's take that time and reflect, and let's bake and cook and clean and whatnot. And now everyone's like, I'm done with all those cookies and all that eating. So yes, I get it. So although it's been isolating, what are the possible lessons or, changes that you've kind of felt in the past few months? Something that struck you about yourself, possibly?
I think I inherently thought I was an introvert and and didn't like people, but I think I've come to realize that I definitely miss people and human interaction so very much. Also, the new discovery is that I got a kitten recently, as I was telling you, and I always thought I was a dog person, and I've surprised myself with a cat. So. But on a more serious note, I think I've had the time to introspect a lot and think about the things that really matter, And aside from missing people and, of course, your friends and your family, you miss little things like physical presence of another human being,
Right.
Whether it's looking at someone in the flesh and reading an expression or seeing what's beyond. Like when we do these digital meetings and virtual meetings, you can switch off your camera, so you can be present but be absent even while you're on a call. And that's been strange. It's been a new kind of learning in terms of I've understood that we thrive off each other's energy, and the presence of human beings is such a, I never thought that would be something that I took for granted, and that I would miss so much.
But that is true. Human connections are something that have absolutely gone missing from our lives, and we're craving that now. We're literally craving it.
I have not had a hug in 7 months. That's I miss being hugged, to be really honest.
So I'm
Um,
just pretending to give you a virtual hug now. If that makes
I
sense.
know.
But then again, it's virtual. I don't know if it helps.
No, I think that's why my kitten is at the receiving end of a much undesired physical affection. But now he has no choice. So
Well done, though. I think the kitten just came in at the right time in your life.
no,
So,
completely.
Anupama, this journey from journalism to writing for shows, television shows, now digital platform, how has this been? How did you embark upon it? Tell us all.
So, I actually never had any plans. Like, I didn't know that I would be a journalist. I just happened to take an entrance exam, went to, the Asian College of Journalism. And before I could finish the course, NDTV came in and kind of recruited a bunch of people, and I made that cut. So I went to NDTV, and then I was a reporter with them for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Post which, I mean, I just took opportunities that came my way. So when I got the chance to work on a nonfiction show, I took it, and I was actually managing contestants. So so from being a reporter and somebody who was on camera and writing scripts off camera, I went on to manage contestants to step into that world of reality television,
Right.
and I just grew from strength to strength. So eventually, I was a creative director on shows, and I worked with a network. And when I really came into my own, I was about 35 years old when I decided that actually I want to tell stories and I want to write them. And so I quit a corporate job to go be an AD on a film down south,
Oh, yeah.
and got I did that because I got the opportunity to write Hindi dialogues for them, and so I said, yeah, let me do it. And if I want to be a writer, you have to cut your teeth on something. And in a sense, it was a new career path for me because people don't care that you've been in the industry for like 12 years or 10 years. They'll look at what you've been doing and want to kind of hire you to do writing work only if you've done writing work before. So, in a sense, at 35, I was starting, at the bottom and really trying to make my mark. And within 5 years, I mean, I managed to get a show on Netflix. You mentioned Masaba Masaba, and it's been a wonderful experience this last month with the show releasing and people seeing my work, and people who I had approached earlier saying, I'm a writer now, do you want to hire me? And not those people not feeling very confident about me because they were like, Arey, ye to, she was doing something else, so now how is she a writer?
Right, right.
But with them now seeing that my work out there, and then saying, oh, that's interesting. Or people literally coming out of the woodwork to message saying, old colleagues, old batchmates, people I've not spoken to in 5 years, in 15 years, have figured out a way to contact me and either reached out on like Facebook or a text message, and it's been very heartening.
It has, right? But this thing you mentioned that, okay, sometimes people have this situation where they've switched not their jobs so much, but their profile, right?
Mhm.
And until and unless there's proof of concept, people don't know what you're bringing to the table, and then they're not understanding what kind of value you really are, right? So, has that ever been a little bit of a challenge or a problem for you?
Definitely. I mean, I think, you can have faith in yourself, but for somebody else to put their faith in you, you have to have something to show them. And that's been a constant challenge, um, to the point where you do begin to doubt yourself as well, where you wonder whether you made the right choices. And do you sometimes, and also writing is such a, um, I mean, now we have writers' rooms and we collaborate and all that. But when I was starting out in 2015, it wasn't so common here, where people would know each other and would collaborate to write a show together, or setting up writers' rooms where you put five people in a room who will write a show. That wasn't that common. Also, I came into it as an individual, so I didn't know other writers. I didn't know people I could collaborate with. I was doing it on my own. And it was definitely difficult. But I think the thing that kept me going was just some sort of faith in myself, the fact that I had a dream and I wanted to pursue it, and I was just doggedly pursuing it. And there were times when it was really, really difficult, where my family was very, very supportive. So my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law are like my pillars. So they also really kind of supported the fact that I wanted to do something, and not just having faith in me and supporting me with words, or encouragement, but even financially, because it's tough and I wasn't
Right.
making enough to like pay my bills, and they were supporting me.
That is so heartening, having a good ecosystem around you and having people, family, or friends so supportive. So that's nice because it allows you to nurture that passion you have. And then you know that that faith or that belief that you have in what you really want to pursue is going to have, let's say, a lot of celebration or triumph at the end of it, because there's been so much struggle behind it. And there's
Hmm.
been so many people behind it. So it's really nice and heartening to know that. How did Masaba Masaba fall into your lap? Or did you go grab it? What happened?
So it's a bit of both.
Hmm.
It kind of came to me because the director Sonam Nair was busy shooting another show, and she had to put a Bible together. And Netflix was desperately pursuing her, saying, "Write the Bible, flesh it out more. We want more."
Right.
And she just didn't have the time or the bandwidth. So it came to me as just a writer and somebody to like take her ideas and put them on paper and add what I could to the Bible.
Hmm.
And once the conversation kind of started between Sonam and myself, and I added things, and we were riffing off on phone calls, she was just laughing and had such a great time. Like, we had such good chemistry that she was like, "Why don't you be one of the writers on the show?" And I was ecstatic. I was like, "Yeah, I mean, totally, I'd love to do that." So it was really about seizing the opportunity. I could have just done the Bible and left it at that, but obviously I was also trying to get to be a writer on the project. And fortunately, it happened in such an organic and wonderful way that there was just no looking back.
Hmm. So basically, you kind of worked your way into something and you made sure that you're pursuing it, and finally, it's all coming together for you.
You could say that, but I have a question for you, Zarina. I mean, I'm sure since you work with so many people, and people might come to you, when they're quite low and looking for inspiration.
Right.
How do you kind of counsel people who have been pursuing something for a long time and are wondering about whether they should give up or whether they should, stay the course?
Wow, that's a tough one, Anupama, actually, because, uh, you know, the thing is, I think a lot of people kind of mix up this whole idea of passion and dreams with what they're capable of doing. And sometimes that mix of things doesn't work for them. So there are people who love singing or dancing or playing music, but they may not be able to make it a conducive profession. Now, when people come to me with that kind of a dilemma, it's usually what we do is we work backwards and forwards and kind of see where they're at and how much more time they want to give themselves, if supposing they're breadwinners of a family, and so on and so forth. Then you want to kind of keep in mind that, hey, maybe I need to do something parallelly. Maybe I need a second source of income while I am trying to pursue something that hasn't still worked out or hasn't clicked. And then on the other hand, sometimes there is a situation where you realize, or somebody realizes, that I want to do this but I'm not good at it, so either I need to upskill or I need to find something else to keep me going. So sometimes I think passion gets overrated in people's minds and they forget their purpose. So, what I try to focus on is getting them to understand their purpose of why they're doing what they're doing, and then possibly find a way to accomplish or achieve that faster, accelerate that process.
That's so great. Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, I think that would be a tough situation for you to handle also. To like tell somebody, I see you're passionate, but you're not very skilled.
I mean, it's not my place to even tell you or tell anyone that you're not skilled, but it is about being
Mm.
able to understand whether you're financially independent, whether somebody depends on you, for instance, those things. And if you want to continue to pursue something that you're passionate about, does that necessarily make you purposeful? Sometimes that is the important aspect. So what I do is I kind of break it down there for them, and then it kind of clears out for them a little more.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So, since since you asked me this, writing isn't an easy job at all. Okay. I mean, you see, when I did your introduction and you validated me, I'm so excited about it, because I was like, hey, I wrote 3 lines and they were nice. So, writing, I think, is one of the toughest jobs. And then there's screenplay, and then you've been in this industry doing something that can creatively drain you out, Anupama. So how do you keep, your creative juices flowing, and how do you manage to get all that content together? Because, to be honest, there's a lot of content out there these days for people to consume. And writing seems like the core of everything, in my opinion.
No, I mean, definitely. I think writers are the custodians of stories, Um, and I mean, the Screenwriters Association has this little booklet that they hand you when you become part of the association. And on the back of that booklet, if I can quote, because it's on my softboard in my, at my desk, it says the screenwriter is the first star of a film or television show, because before the screenwriter, a film or a television show is just a blank piece of paper.
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, yes, stories can be draining, and it's difficult to sustain, yourself. But which is why I think, if you read up on any writer, if you watch interviews of writers, which I did in copious amounts when I first decided to be a writer. I think there are certain things that sustain you, and you have to figure out what's the best fit for you. But for me, because I'd always been in a corporate job since my early 20s, and I'd done it for over a decade, something that I found very difficult as a freelancer, when I first started out, is that I had all this time on my hands and I didn't know how to spend it. And I thought, and I think there's this romantic notion of when inspiration strikes, you'll sit down and pen like a whole novel,
Oh, yes.
But it doesn't work like that. I mean, maybe it works like that for some people. But the thing that I found about the writers that I love, whether it was novelists, whether it was screenwriters, whether, it was directors, or artists, musicians, when I really deep dived into what their process was, I found that most of them thrived when they created a routine. So,
Right.
irrespective of whether you achieve much in within the 4 hours or the 8 hours or how many ever hours you put aside to write, irrespective of whether you're having a good day or a bad day, you just sit. When you've decided that between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. I'm going to be at my laptop, that's what you do. You don't allow yourself to be distracted by, let me go make a coffee, let me figure out ki, have I got enough sabzi, let me do a cleanup of my cupboard.
Yeah, that's right.
So you create like a routine and you honor that routine. So something that I've done consistently over the last 5 years is, I've woken up more or less at the same time. I do a workout in the morning because I like to get that out of the way. Because if you leave it for later, wo hota nahi hai.
That's
So,
true.
so you finish it in the morning, get yourself breakfast, and then sit down to write. And then do that till it's about lunchtime.
Okay.
Then take a lunch break, and but I'm not so. I mean, it of course evolved over time. So I realized that mornings are the best for my writing. Afternoons are good for reading. Evenings are good for research or educating yourself, like reading a screenplay or watching a film. So that you're not fatigued by the end of your day, and you have some energy in you when you go to bed and you wake up the next morning again. So the other thing is, everything can't be just about work.
Correct.
If you don't have experiences, if you don't have things that you enjoy in life, how do you bring joy into what you do?
Absolutely.
So I discovered a couple of things that I enjoy. I stole one of my sister's hobbies, which is knitting.
Oh wow, that's
And to her great displeasure, I'm very good at it.
oh dear. That's the first after a really long time I'm hearing about knitting. That's so nice.
It's not very conducive for Bombay weather, but
I know
but, but I knit for everybody else in the family. So they travel. Mom and dad live in Delhi, and my sister and brother-in-law live in London. So
that.
it's good for them. You know?
So, how has your sister coped with this?
she's expanding her repertoire. She's I still do only scarves and topis, and she's now it's challenged her to do sweaters and bags and other things. So,
How sweet. That's
so
nice.
see, competition drives you, right? So,
Totally, totally. And sibling competition and sibling rivalries is another story altogether. So,
for sure. So yeah. So I mean, knitting was one of them. I like to paint because I like to do things with my hands. I'm not good at it, but it's not to be good at anything. It's just to have that mind space to say, okay, it's like it's meditative,
right.
where you focus on just that, which colors you're choosing, what you're painting, and you just allow your brain to just be there, present, doing
Hmm.
that. Aside from that, I discovered that I enjoy cooking, which I've really been challenged with in the last 7 months.
Hmm.
Because when you have to do it as opposed to when you want to do it, is obviously there's a difference.
Oh, yes.
um, but I did find that I enjoyed cooking for myself, and um, I like experimenting with ingredients and creating new dishes, and it's sort of creative also.
Hmm.
So it was a different way to express my creativity. So if I had a bad writing day, if I could cook a good meal, I would still feel good about myself,
Right, right.
and gardening. So I know Mumbai flats are small, but I have a lovely balcony which is green and has quite a few plants.
There you go. Now we're talking because that is something that is I'm so into. Just
Yeah.
garden. So yeah, cooking as well though. But what I've realized is cooking is an art and baking is a science. And I'm
Mm.
bad at the science of things, so I am the cooking aspect.
I mean, I take the pressure off. The food might look nice, it may not taste very good. So all my Instagram, has my friends complaining, saying, "Ki you never feed us," and I'm like, if I have to cook for other people, there's pressure. And if I just do it for myself, it's fun.
Right. So for you, it's kind of therapeutic. So obviously, you don't want to do it for people, but yeah,
Yeah.
you enjoy that. Any dishes that you could have possibly mastered in this time? This
I mean,
is dressing, but I just wanted to know. Curious.
I'm pretty. I make a pretty decent, and I know this won't sound like an achievement, but I'm telling you, a yummy khichdi is an achievement.
I agree. I agree. I absolutely agree. Not everybody has the skill of doing that.
Yeah. So my khichdi is pretty good. And I inherited a recipe from my mom for apple pie, which I'm pretty decent at. It's a good apple pie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like I said, baking for me is a science. So, getting that temperature right and all of those things. This is great. So
Hmm.
you got a nice comfort food recipe and a comfort food dessert. What else do you need?
Yeah, right.
Now you did mention that. I mean, I mentioned that you're the creative director at Sony Live now. Right?
Hmm.
You've been a freelancer for some time. You've been on your own for some time, and then you joined Sony Live.
Hmm.
That's been in the recent past for you.
So it's literally been, I mean, I started at Sony Live in April.
Okay,
So it's been
this
a
this
few
April.
months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where the time has gone by.
So that's a lockdown job that you've got, basically.
It's a complete miracle. I mean, at the time that, that people were going through such tough times and the progressive months was so difficult, it's not lost on me that I got a job doing something that I love. Uh,
Hmm.
I read for a living and I collaborate with writers, directors, cinematographers for a living. I mean, this is this is the most wonderful opportunity that I've got, and the team is just great at Sony Live. Also, because it's such a young company, it relaunched in July. So it's being so experimental in the kind of content it's doing, and it's really providing opportunities to expand the scope of what we're seeing on the digital front, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So just the lineup of shows is exciting, and the team is exciting, and it's a new chapter that I've so far, touch wood, I've really been enjoying.
That's quite fascinating, being able to get something that you enjoy doing, and especially during a time where other people possibly are trying to not get laid off from work. So that's quite, I mean, that's a good thing. That's a fantastic thing. And how are you managing the whole work from home bit? Does that get tedious?
Yes, it's exhausting because the thing that happens when you travel or when you commute is that I think your brain gets downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And what was happening in the initial months of lockdown was, from the cooking and the cleaning and the meetings and the reading, it was just this non-stop worrying of the mind, where the natural pauses that would come into your day because you had to, stop for a coffee, or chat with a colleague, or commute, those were just not happening.
Right.
And so it was possible to be really to be exhausted, and for them, for people to feel tired all the time. And I think that's what was happening with everybody. It was a common experience that people were feeling exhausted.
Right. Sure.
But I became aware of it very early, and so I created the pauses, so for instance, I hate sitting in front of a screen, laptop, TV, phone, whatever, uh, and the day finishing, outside. So if it becomes from daylight to night and I don't notice it, and I suddenly become aware of the fact that the sun is set and it's become night, it weighed on my mind for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I created, like, I put an alarm on my phone, and I just took pause to sit with a cup of coffee, or with a glass of water, and just watch, the sky change. So in the evenings, that's what I do. Or even when I eat my meals, I sit at the table and I eat my meal there
Mm-hmm.
rather than being in front of my laptop, So I mean, I think that's helped also. And also, the good thing that's happened is, otherwise, I was working out thrice a week. Now I work out every single day.
That is some motivation. I'm probably going to have a conversation post recording to get some tips on that. Because I don't know, maybe my jhadu pocha, I can consider that to be my workout, and then I get
Hmm.
lazy about actually working out some days of the week. So yeah, I'm going to get my motivation from you.
I
The
mean, it's so understandable. People who live with families, it's a tall ask, right? It's so difficult. Families, kids, a spouse. I think because it's just me, I can prioritize my day like that. And also, I find that because we're restricted to our homes, and of course, you can go down for a walk or whatever. But the initial months were, people were paranoid, and I was quite scared as well. So I restricted
Right.
myself to my home, but not getting exercise has a big detrimental effect on your mental health.
It does.
So and also, the conversations with your family become, like, every day when you're speaking, they become mundane and they become the same. And so my sister and brother-in-law kind of suggested it, and so we meet up every day for a workout.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, so that's our catch up. So we work out together, and then we'll just kind of have a small chat at the end of it. But that's just refreshing. So it's fun. I'm not working out alone. I'm doing it with them, and
Right.
we motivate each other. So if there's a day that I'm not really feeling like I'm feeling being lazy, then they're like, do it for us, do it so that we'll also do it.
Yeah.
And that keeps you motivated. So that's a wonderful kind of routine we've fallen into.
Mhm. I loved what you said about sitting and just being able to watch the color of the sky change. That's a very
Mm.
enchanting experience if
Mm.
one really wants to take a pause. And maybe that's also a nice, simple technique or tip rather one can use.
I think so. I think also in terms of, I mean, I'm big on meditation, and I think people, there's this mystery attached to what meditation is.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, when I have told a couple of friends or suggested that you just pay attention to your breath, your in and your out. That's it, and it allows you to root yourself in a moment and just be present. And that's what I'm doing when I'm watching the sky change. It's not riveting, especially nowadays that it's monsoon. It's cloudy skies.
Yes.
Once in a while, you'll be gifted with a beautiful sunset
Yeah.
and amazing colors in the sky. But on other days, it's not very spectacular.
Yeah, but it is being mindful. I think
Yeah,
that's what you mean. Being really mindful and being present in your moment. So, irrespective of whether the sight is beautiful or not, just being able to completely let it absorb and kind of just feel it completely, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I think the default thing that happens is that you may run through your day, but you'll bring your mind back to your breath. And it's a wonderful way to also reset the way your day is going. If it's been bad, then it's you take pause and you understand that it's momentary, it's past. You'll maybe try it for a better day tomorrow. And if it's been good, then it's a chance to give thanks for that and acknowledge that it's been a good day, and acknowledge your efforts, and just give yourself a little pat on the back maybe.
So you are an extremely positive person from what I sense, right? I mean, because of the whole meditation and being so active and wanting a healthy mind and a healthy body, I think that definitely has, it's the advantages when you're looking at being holistic, right? And having said that, I sometimes feel that, when you're looking at writing or you're looking at the kind of profession you're in, lots of people out there consider that this is a space of fame, a space of glamour, right? And sometimes their entire reason for wanting to get into a certain industry comes from these areas. What do you think about that? Is that true? Is that, I mean, I've come across people who've said that because I want to get into this industry because it's fascinating, it's glamorous, it's you get fame. Those are the words that are typically used with
Mhm.
certain work and certain kind of professions. Have
Mhm.
you come across that? Do you think this has any truth in it?
I think people are enamored with Bollywood and generally with actors, and having your name published or out in the media somewhere.
Hmm.
And I won't deny that seeing my name on a Netflix show brings me certain amount of joy. Right? There is pride in your name appearing on something. And to be honest, I've written a lot of things over the last 5 years.
Okay.
But this one show, because it's on Netflix, it released globally. My parents, friends, relatives, colleagues, everybody is acknowledging, sending screenshots. So there is an element of glamour,
Yes.
which can be very enticing.
Hmm.
But let me tell you, that'll happen once out of I don't know how many times.
Hmm.
You have to be willing to stay the course. You have to be willing to do the grunge work, to write sometimes just for money, even though you don't believe in a concept, maybe. But you'll do it because you have to pay your bills. That's if you want to be a serious writer.
Right.
You won't always, I mean, unless you have deep pockets or somebody funding your lifestyle, you're not going to be able to only work on things that you are passionate about or truly believe in. It's the same for anybody, right? That's the practical side of building a career, is that you will make choices sometimes because you need the money, and once you've made enough money, you'll make choices because you have the luxury to make to choose projects.
Hmm.
So I think there's some very harsh truths and hard facts that are awaiting people who enter into it with the expectation that it's very glamorous and it'll always be wonderful.
Right.
The people that you see whose names are out there, who you consider celebrities, have worked for 14, 15, 20, 30 years before they've become famous.
That's right. That's right.
And I think people dismiss the hard work. They don't see it, and so they just see you when once you've made it, and they assume that, आज decide किया कि मैं कुछ बनूंगा और कल आप बन गए.
Yeah, that is true. Dismissing hard work is something which seems like a problem in the society in general because one looks at you standing with that award or a trophy, you're standing on top of things, being
Hmm.
famous and all of that. But how you got there, and that entire struggle. I think that journey literally belongs to a person, literally just that person. And unfortunately, maybe people should be giving more credit, because, for example, you've got this show,
Hmm.
which, like you mentioned, has given you a lot of, let's say, validation and recognition. But you've been working, and you must have done some great work even before this. But you know,
I think recognition is the right word. Validation from the point of view that I think my parents are getting to hear from when their friends or batchmates or people they know are like, oh, Anupama ka naam dekha, acha laga and all.
mm,
Then you feel like, I mean, I don't know, maybe not everybody feels that way, but I like making my parents proud.
of course, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Um,
That's lovely.
yeah, so also because as I said, they put so much faith and support behind my journey
Hmm.
that I feel somewhere grateful for the fact that they get to see me reap certain rewards
Right.
for the dedication and the hard work that I put into it, and I feel like their faith in me has been rewarded and validated.
Yes. Yes.
uh,
That's beautifully put.
so for me the recognition is just an added kind of bonus,
Hmm.
but I the validation I don't necessarily look for. I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine where I was this is I think in the second or third year of me struggling, really struggling to be a writer and have people give me the opportunity to write for them. And I was very ridden with doubt. And it comes and goes in phases. So it was a low phase, and I was wondering whether I was even any good at it. And I was so miserable about what if I'm not good, and like angst ridden, and sitting in her living room just belly aching endlessly, full of self pity. And finally, and nothing she was saying to encourage me was pulling me out of it. So finally, she just kind of gave up and she said, okay, let's say you are the worst writer ever. And I was like, okay. And she's like, come on, just go with it. You're the worst, okay? You will never make anything worth anybody's time.
Hmm.
Tell me who will love you less. Will your parents love you less? Will your sister or brother in law love you less? Will I love you less?
Hmm.
And I was like, no, because it doesn't matter to these people whether I'm a good writer or not.
Right. Right. Wow.
Uh, and it just took the burden, or it put so much perspective, to the issue at hand. Where I was like, okay, cool. Writing is just what I do.
Hmm.
It's not who I am.
Right. So you kind of distinguished yourself quite clearly, and you knew that it's different things. It's not the same thing, because you didn't allow your profession to consume you.
It does consume me, but it doesn't. It's not the only thing that defines me.
Correct. And hence
Uh,
that validation does not necessarily have to give you that feeling. It's as long as there's recognition and there's pride to your parents, and the work is being rewarded with credibility. That is the good feeling that you get.
I think I look more for the opportunity now than I do for what becomes of that opportunity.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's an important distinction that's happened. If I'm getting to do what I love, then I'm just trying to enjoy the process.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting very empowered in this conversation, I have to say, because I think your friend gave you really good advice, and
Uh-huh.
that is fantastic piece of advice. Now,
Mm.
obviously, you have a friend like that who gave you a perspective to think about, and that worked for you. But
Mm.
there are peaks and valleys in
Mm.
the process during the journey, and sometimes some motivation is not enough. So, how do you handle certain challenges? Certain valleys that you have to possibly cross, and how do you overcome that? Any story or any possible, maybe something just from an experience, if you like.
Um, I mean, I think the valleys can happen from different experiences in your life, right?
Mhm.
I mean, uh, it doesn't just happen at work; it happens on the personal front as well.
Right.
Um, and I think when I was younger, I would run away from the problem literally. Like I would go somewhere else where I could just spend time, away from the city or the people or whatever it was that I had an issue with.
Mm-hmm.
and give, I think what it did was, it gave me the opportunity to recoup and to regain a certain amount of strength before I came back to face it. But the technique is not always, it's not always a viable option,
Right.
for you to up and leave. So as I grew older, I think I've come to appreciate that life is about, many things. So uh, one thing doesn't make up your existence, so one relationship or one project or one interaction, bad interaction with somebody, those are not the sum total of your experience of life. So you have to acknowledge, especially when something goes wrong, you have to acknowledge it, say, yeah, okay, I get that this is terrible and it's pathetic and I'm really upset about it. And then consciously make a decision to think about all the things that are right. And I mean, I find it difficult. This is not easy advice. This is difficult because when, say, for instance, you break up with someone and you're miserable, and you're heartbroken, you're sad, it is not always possible to say, okay, my relationship ended, but I have a house and I have food and I have, love is not just romantic love. My parents love me, my family loves me, my friends love me. It's not easy to have that perspective in the moment. But I think I allow myself a brooding time. And then when I'm sick of my own BS, I like start practicing what I preach.
Perfect, perfect. I think that is what one should do, a little bit of self reflection, and you know what you need to accept and acknowledge, and then how to move on. So it's
No,
entirely a personal process.
and Zarina, these things have not come easy. Like these things have been, uh, I mean, in my 20s, or even up to, like, I think there's been a lot of self reflection and self study
Yes.
and understanding that you need to grow as a person and adapt. Because if those techniques were working for me to up and run away and, do all that, then I wouldn't need to adapt. Then I
Hmm.
would have just continued doing that. Obviously, it was not working. So I had to figure it out. I had to be like, okay, what can I do, better, or how can I survive better? Because I don't think I want to just survive. Actually, I really want to thrive. I really want to live well.
Yeah. Yeah, that, like they say, breathing is existing. So tell
Hmm.
me if you know how to live. And that is where you get your answers. So
Yeah.
that is beautiful. That's what I'm saying. You just sound like such a person who's already in the process of introspection and knows exactly where she is, what she's doing, and how she's got to get a hold or kind of put her pieces back together. And
Hmm.
that itself is quite beautiful, Anupam. I mean, I really like what I'm listening to right now, frankly.
Thank you. I must admit that it has not always been the case, and I work at it. It's
Of
not
course.
easy. I have very bad days. Like I told you that sitting on my friend's couch and being like a Debbie Downer, that was also me. You know.
Of course, you need those downs because then otherwise, how do you enjoy, when you rise? So
Mm.
that makes complete sense. But lucky that you also have friends like that. Or
Mhm.
that one friend.
No,
I love her advice. You have to tell her. Considering I give advice to people, please tell her that this really is coming from right deep within my heart. That's fantastic piece of advice.
oh, thank you so much. I will. I do value her very much. I think you also gravitate towards people like your friends are a reflection of your phases of life. Also, I think
That's so true.
so. So she's somebody who I love and I respect tremendously.
How sweet. So, there is so much about you, and the core that you are is you started off with something that you were passionate about. You've grown into it, and you've had your share of, let's say, ups and downs and peaks and valleys, but you've always shown, right? What would your advice to possible aspiring writers out there be? Because it's not easy. Like you mentioned, if you don't have a sustained income or you don't have a comfortable lifestyle from the beginning, you've
Hmm.
got to see struggles, and you've got to see struggles to the bottom. You're going to hit rock bottom. So, what is your advice, Anupama, to aspiring writers or people out there who are trying to make a living out of their passion or things that they love?
I think you have to do it for the right reasons. So if you don't absolutely love it, you're going to really struggle.
Hmm.
you have to love it even on a bad day. You have to love it even when you have to rewrite something. You have to love it when people give you feedback, uh, because you're doing it. I mean, if you wanted to just write something and have nobody have any sort of say on it or comment on it, then you
Mhm.
maintain a personal diary. You write a journal, you write a blog, you know. But if
Yeah.
you want to write to earn a living off of it, then whether it's books, you'll have an editor weighing in or a publisher weighing in. Whether it's television, you'll have, the network or the producer. Films is extremely collaborative. The director has a final say in what gets made.
Hmm.
So you can't be so precious about your writing. You have to understand, a, that you'll have to be really diligent and dogged about wanting to write,
Hmm.
and b, you'll have to understand that it's very collaborative. So it's the more you collaborate, and if you find the right partners to collaborate with, it will only enhance the written word, and it'll carry it from strength to strength. um, and unfortunately there'll be bad collaborations too and bad experiences as well. But if you don't have those, you won't grow as a person. You won't understand anything about life, and what will you represent?
Right.
So I think writers, young writers, and frankly, this is something I find shocking. I've met quite a few writers who say they don't read, and that I don't understand.
Okay.
I don't. You have to be a reader. Like, how can you write when you don't know the different ways in which one can express themselves?
Wow. It's actually very much like you will end up telling somebody who wants to be good at communication and public speaking. You can't be a good speaker until you're not a good listener.
Hmm.
I believe that's the same thought process that goes with writing and reading.
Hmm.
Hmm. That's interesting. So I guess your wise words to people out there is that, do it for the right reasons, read, spend time, right?
Yeah. So aside from reading, I guess I would also encourage young writers to focus their energy on their efforts rather than attaching too much importance to the end result. By this, I mean really learn to love the process of writing and creating stories and characters and new worlds, irrespective of what happens to those eventually. Because sometimes you'll get a big show like Masaba Masaba on Netflix, but more often than not, at least when you're starting out, you probably won't. But if you love the process, then the end result won't matter as much, right? Because you would have been doing something that you loved, and irrespective of what happens to it, you'll know that you gave it your best shot. So if you fail, I mean, it's an opportunity to learn and grow, and maybe take something valuable from that experience. And if you did good, then that's another valuable lesson learned.
Absolutely. And, everybody has a belief that they probably feel really strongly about, or something that they entirely swear by. So I'd love to know, Anupama, what is a belief that you swear by?
um I think I believe that you should not be married to your beliefs. You should allow yourself to learn, to grow
Hmm.
from every experience, and to be open to adapting or reimagining, what you should believe. So, because when you know more and you know better, that's the time you can actually do better.
Hmm.
So don't be so hung up on belief systems. Be open to learning and growing always.
So you're saying that there shouldn't be a belief that you swear by.
I think you should swear by it in the moment that you know that this works for you. But if you
Okay.
learn some new information about, the world, or your beliefs that disprove your belief, be open to saying, okay, no, now that I know this and I didn't have this information earlier, this is what I believe now.
Right.
So I don't think it's wrong to correct yourself.
Correct yourself. Yes. That is very, very perceptive. Very interesting. Yes, absolutely. So, Anupama, we've come to the end of our episode, and I cannot let you leave without answering our signature classic question. What empowers you?
I think what empowers me most is that I know that I can count on myself. and showing up for myself every time, irrespective of whatever the situation is. Rather than looking for who shows up for me in my life, I have begun to show up for myself, which I
Right.
think I value. I've learned to value the most.
Okay. See, you've taken me, by surprise in this conversation quite a few times. But I have to say, to be honest with you, that's a sign of a person with a high level of emotional intelligence, EQ. When,
Mm.
yeah, as a practitioner, that is what I mean. That's something I would like to let you know, that you have a really high level of EQ in the way you think, in the way you process information. But this has been absolutely wonderful, Anupama. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and not only sharing your professional journey, but also being so candid about your personal life and yourself. It's been such an amazing conversation. Thanks so very much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have these conversations. I live for these kind of conversations with friends and family, and it's so wonderful to speak to you also. And thank you for the compliment about emotional intelligence. Next relationship I'm in, I'll let him know.
Yes, you could. You could for sure. But thank you once again. This was amazing. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Zarina. Thank you for the opportunity.
If you liked this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Intel. It's been a great week on the network this week. If you haven't been paying attention, please do listen to some of the shows. We had Chetan Bhagat. This was the first returning guest on Cyrus Says. Do check that out. Great episode. We had Palak Zatakia on Advertising is Dead. Really interesting conversation was had with Varun. We had another crossover on the habit coach. Zarina Poonawalla showed up over there to have a discussion with Ashton about anxiety and pressure. Begin the Journey with Ashish Vidyarthi continues to kill it. Please definitely do check it out. An old friend, Vijay Koshi, was on Storytellers and Storysellers. Do check that out as well. And I'd like to mention one thing. If you're a Tamil speaker, you should definitely check out our podcast, Kadai Podcast Punyan Selvan. Kavita Jiva has done a fantastic job to finish up her first story. It is the last episode which just came out last Monday. Do check it out if you speak Tamil. It is an incredible achievement. Please do check that out. And with that, hope to see you again next week.
Janice, what do you think couples did before TV was invented?
I don't know, go for walks on the beach, long drives, fancy dinners, have more sex maybe?
But what did we do when we decided to move in together? We debated between the Chromecast and the Fire Stick.
We gave up on sleeping early so we could stay up watching true crime shows.
We got ourselves 3 cat babies.
And basically became the cutest couch potatoes around.
Okay then.
In case you guys still haven't got it, we are a TV crazy, Netflix loving, binge watching Mr. and Mrs.
I'm Anirudh Kuha.
I'm Janice Sequeira.
And if like us, you snort TV for breakfast, lunch and dinner, this is the podcast for you.
Tune in every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever it is that you get your podcast from. This is
Mr.
and Mrs.
Binge Watch.